So today we're going to review finding a fraction of an amount, and there'll be some levelled questions. So just to remind you, in case it's gone out of your mind, we do know the rule, but I'm just modelling this for you. So I've drawn a bar model, and the whole represents 28, and there are 7 parts. Each part is 1/7, and we're going to be finding 2/7, 2 of the 7ths. So first of all, we need to take our 28 and divide it by 7 so that we can find out what each part is, which is 4. So 1/7 equals 4. So that part is 4 and the other part is 4. All of those individual parts are 4. We've split 28 into 7 parts. But the question says 2/7 of 28, so we want to combine 2 of them together. So 4 times 2 gives me 8. Just to recap, the rule that we've learned is you take the whole number, which is 28, and you divide that number by the denominator. So you split it into how many parts there are. So 28 divided by 7. Divide the amount by the denominator. And then when you get that answer, which in this case was 4, you then multiply that answer by the numerator, because we want that many parts. So there's 7 parts. We split into 7 parts. We find out what each part represents, which is 4, and then we want 2 of them. So we multiply by 2. So divide by the denominator and then multiply by the numerator. For this next question, I just want to review finding a slightly more complicated fraction of an amount. 4/5 of 105. So in this case, we might not be able to do the calculation in our head because it's not in our times table facts that we know. So we've got 105. Again, you don't need to draw this bar model. You absolutely don't. Just draw it if you want to. Really, you should be doing the written method rather than the bar model. This is just to show you and remind you what we're doing. So we're doing 105 divided into 5 parts. And we're going to be wanting to collect 4 of them. So first we need to find out what 1/5 actually is. So we're going to split 105 into 5 pieces. So we can't do that in our head. We'll probably be able to, but it's an easier way to just show with any number we could divide it with our bus stop method. So 5s into 1 doesn't go, and 5s into 10 goes twice. 5s into 5 goes 1 time. So we've got 21 is equivalent to 1/5. 1/5 is 21, and we are going to want 4 of them, 21, 21, 21, 21. So we're going to do 21 multiplied now by the numerator. 21 times 4, 1 times 4 is 4, and 2 times 4 is 8, so it will give us 84. So it's the same method, just with a slightly more complicated calculation. So here we're looking at finding a percentage of an amount. In a sense, this is very similar to coin card. So actually, if you remember back to last week, we looked at coin card in our long division questions. So finding a percentage of amount is very similar to coin card, because you've got 10p, 50p, 1p, 5p, 20p. The only one we don't have is 25p. So to find 10%, we're going to divide the whole by 10. To find 50%, we're going to halve the original quantity. We're going to halve the number. 50% is equivalent to a half. To find 25%, we're going to halve the 50%, which essentially is divide by 2, divide by 2. That is the same as dividing by 4, because 25% is 1/4. To find 1%, we're going to divide the original quantity by 100. Because percent means 1 out of 100, and here we've got 1 out of every 100. Or you can actually divide the 10% by 10 to give you 1%. I wonder if you can remember what we do to 10% to find 5%. So we're going to halve the 10% to give us 5%. And then we're going to double the 10% to give us 20%. Also, 20% is equivalent to a fifth. So you could divide the original quantity by 5. So here we're going to be finding some key percentages of an amount, starting with 360 and we're finding 10% and so on. We're going to divide by 10 to find 36, that's 10%. Then to find our 50%, we halve the amount. So 360 halved is 180. We're going to halve that again because half of a half is a quarter. So that gives us 90. Or we could have divided the original quantity by 4 because we're finding a quarter. So 360 divided by 4 gives me 90. Now I like to divide the 10% by 10 to give me 1%. So that will be 3.6 with my digit shifting method. And then to find my 20%, I'm going to double the 36 to give me 72. Oh, that's in the wrong place. So 5%, we're halving, aren't we? We're halving. That's the 20%, 72, which is doubling the 10%. And then to find 5%, we've got to halve it, which is 18. Got those modelled up there. So that's our key quantities of the amount. So for this next calculation, I'm going to break the 67% into chunks. I'm going to start with 10%, 50%, then to make the 7, 1% and 5%, but we'll need to do something with those a bit later, because that would make 6. So 10% is going to be 280, 50% will be 1,400, and then I'm going to combine those two together to give me 60%, just adding those together. Obviously, I could have multiplied 10% by 6. So it's 1,680. That's 60%. And then I'm going to look at my 1%. So to work out 1%, it will be, I'm going to start with 5%. 1% will be 28, and then 5% will be 140. But I don't want 6%, 1% and 5% will be 6%, so I actually want 7%. So my plan is to do 2 lots of 1% and the 5%. So I've got 140, add 28, add 28, and I'm adding those together. Need a little bit more room. So 8 and 8 is 16, 8 and the 1 is 9, 1 and nothing is 1, 196, so that gives us our 7%. And finally, we just have to put the 1,680 together with the 196 because we want 60%, add 7%. I'm going to run out of room here. So my answer is 1,876. We've got to order these from smallest to largest. I'm going to have to work them all out. So 4/5 of 35. Right, I divide by the denominator and multiply by the numerator. So 35 divided by 5 is 7. 7 times 4 is 28. So that's 28, just write that up there. Okay, 75% of 32 is the same as finding 3/4. So I could find half, which is 16, and then 1/4, which is 8, and put the two together. Or I could have found 3/4, so divide it by 4 and times it by 3. So that one's 24. Half of 52, half of 50 is 25, half of 2 is 1, combined together, so it should be 26. You can partition it like this if you want to. So now I have to simply put them in order. So B is the smallest, then C, followed by A. There's a few examples of these on the next slides for mild and spicy. Hot and spicy plus, it's up to you. You can have a go at a few and then move on. There is a spicy plus hot challenge for you later on.